Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Up Zone, where understanding politics is made simple. We are your two hosts, Mr. Elmer Floyd, former House Representative of the 43rd District in the state of North Carolina, and myself, Tisha S. Waddell, former City Council Representative for the 3rd District in the city of Fayetteville, North Carolina. Mr. Floyd, how goes all?
So far, so good. So good so far. And I got one more week, one more day to hear from my creditors because they don't call on Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, all right now.
See,
You
yeah,
know, I
that's
always tell
40.
you, we know you don't have any predators, but I'm gonna let you play that game if you want to. It's fine with me.
Well, I appreciate it. Friday and Saturday, Saturday and Sunday, they don't call, but the Monday through Friday. And on top of that, Tish, you know what?
Yeah,
Then I get all the spam calls.
I'm
You
so
know,
sick of the spam
they
calls,
want
Mr. Floyd.
to.
I'm so sick of the spam calls.
I mean,
I'm so sick
I
of the
feel
spam calls.
I feel good about the call. I'm sorry, Jace. I feel good about the ring because people call you, you think there's something, okay. But then when you look at it, spam,
Mm-hmm.
spam,
Yeah,
spam. I mean, I don't have a lot of minutes on my phone, but they're burning up my minutes.
yeah.
So that's why I
Well,
can't talk to you often because I have minutes. Yeah,
and
my
and we
phone
got to we got
is
to put
birthday by minutes.
you back in the '90s. You stuck back in
Yeah,
1997. Call you for free after 9 o'clock.
yeah, yeah.
Because
That's
anything
how we
before that is
operate.
eating up your minutes.
It's eating up my minutes, T. So you got to say you had, you know, back in the day before we moved on the program, when we used to call our loved one, we only had 3 minutes if we was away from the state, and our loved one was back home. We had 3 minutes to say
Right,
all the lovely words to her, and then they said you are now talking. You now will be charged for overtime. So
right, right.
I still have that
Absolutely.
system.
Well, let's keep those creditors from calling so they're not eating up the minutes. Mr. Floyd,
Thank you.
I know that you've got some announcements for us. We had a guest that we were going to have come on today. Well, we still do have a guest. We had Crazy Horse who's going to come talk about the Juneteenth stuff that was going on in the community. But I want you to go
Yes.
ahead and handle that since we weren't able to make our schedules coordinate for him to come and tell us about it. What we got going on in our community.
Well, first of all, let's look at the Juneteenth, which is going to be Saturday. There's a lot of activities that's going to take place.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Down in Fayetteville, I think last year they entered into an agreement with the Downtown Association to sponsor some Juneteenth activity. That will be
Mm-hmm.
downtown Fayetteville in the festival park. I think it's like from 3 to 9.
Do you know, Mr. Floyd, if
There.
the festival park area has new security measures in place based upon the security
Um,
the city council's conversations about all of the events of downtown?
I don't know, but I can imagine they'll have a little bit more security than what they have in the past, and I'm going to leave that comment, there,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it's Juneteenth. I'm sure they just won't have 2 or 3 police officers downtown
Yeah.
there. But
Mr.
I'm
Floyd,
just saying,
you
geez,
you like
I'm
to
just
call our
saying.
city council racist, don't you?
No, 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 no. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that given Juneteenth and it's a celebration in the African American community, I'm sure that they will have sufficient of law enforcement in the area. I don't even have to worry about that. I figure out like that I can just walk down, I guess that's Ray Avenue, all day and all night, because there will be security there. So
Right.
well, that goes about too with the city in its budget, which you haven't looked at. Didn't you say you haven't looked at the $6.2 million that they're gonna put in cameras and license plate readers? So I'm
Yeah.
happy with it. And then the
Okay.
Mount Sinai is going to have one that Monday, which is I believe it's the 17th. And the one that First Baptist has, which is going to be on the 14th, has been moved to the 21st at the same time. I think it's from
Okay.
10 to 2. So really, really enjoy Juneteenth. As I say for
Enjoy.
every holiday,
Absolutely.
Chief, enjoy it, but please do not help the correction. I'm sorry, do not help our court system by
Enjoy
paying fees
responsibly.
and fines. Yeah,
Enjoy
and paying
responsibly.
fees and fines and helping our school system.
Right.
So that's basic. Oh yeah, and then Shaw University, which is going to have their activity the 21st at Fuller Center, and I think that's somewhere around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So
Okay.
those are our announcements. But if I can take a moment there, you know, I attended two activities, this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
One was the zoning commission meeting, and that was a zoning P25. It was P2530 of zoning property on Rose Hill Road.
Okay.
Well, when we arrived there, we was told that that item had been tabled. To some people, tabled, pulled, or moved to July the 8th. So uh, if you go to a meeting like that, once you receive that information, you leave. Okay, because your item is not on the agenda, so why just sit around? So I decided that, so I spoke and asked, will the community receive a notice of the change? And the city attorney the attorney that represented the commission said, no, you will not get a notice. And so this echoed.
Who was the attorney that was
I think her name
representing?
was Carolyn. I think her name was Carolyn. I'm not sure, but I was
Okay.
told that she was the city. She was the attorney representative, and I was somewhat surprised. We didn't cancel the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We were there in opposition to the zoning.
Okay.
So if the meeting was changed, due process should have been given to
Should be
us
followed.
about a
Absolutely.
future notice, because if it was pulled, changed, or whatnot, it seems to me the whole game changes. So that
Right.
means that we have a chance now to get more people from our community to participate, just like the developer. And I hope that he doesn't get an attorney that was uh, participate in the zoning of the 7-Eleven store that's
Well,
coming up
actually,
on
the
Murphy
attorney for
Road.
the 7-Eleven was who other than attorney our Jonathan Charleston, Mr. Floyd, who,
I
by the
know,
way,
but I'm
we will
hoping
be
that
discussing at the end of this podcast. So make sure that you guys stay tuned all the way through to the end of this podcast. We have an announcement that we want to share with you that we think is kind of flown under the radar. We've been watching it for a little while to see what would transpire, and we want to share with you some of the updates that have been transpiring. So stay until the end. Don't don't tune out early today.
but teach me what I want. I just want to at this the chairman of the zoning commission made a motion that he strongly asked the staff to notify us.
Hmm.
Had he not made that motion, then we would not have been notified. In fact, the meeting changed from where it was to City Hall. So we would have went back to where we originally, other words, we would have been prepared to go back to where the meeting was held. But the meeting on July the 8th will be in City Hall. So
Okay.
sometimes you have to watch out, as sometimes you have to look at your role and that you play, in the setting of a meeting. Due process should have been given to us. We didn't change the meeting. We
Right.
simply came to the meeting. So, so then I began to think, Madam Waddell. I said, I can see now how Muhammad dropped out of the sky and became a contractor for the city of
Because
Houston.
Mr. Floyd, doesn't it seem like this contracting company literally just appeared from nowhere, got all this work from the city, and then just disappeared?
That's what I'm saying. I can see how now, because that staff attorney didn't even think, to me, that process should have been given to all,
Right.
not just the organization that requested that the item be pulled, moved, or transferred. But what about the people who was there to speak in favor or against it? But I just want to thank the chairman. So as you see the chairman, I didn't get his name, but thank him for being strong enough and be mindful enough that they serve the people on the
Adequate notice.
planning. Yeah, that they serve the people, so the people should be involved in the process. I just wanted to publicly thank him of that. But
Absolutely. Absolutely. What other announcements you have? I know we got some
well,
talk chatter about the Longleaf Pine Award. Do you want to save that until after
yeah,
our guest, or you want to talk about that now?
is our guest in the studio now?
We do have our
She's in the
guest in the studio now.
okay. Well, can we go there and then come back in?
Absolutely, we certainly can. So today
Okay.
we are joined by the Vice Chair of the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners, Miss Veronica Jones. Miss Veronica Jones was elected to at large in 2022 for a 4-year term. Her election comprised 83% of the election votes. She received the highest voter support. Immediately following her winning election, community supporters and several grassroots organizations began to refer to Commissioner Jones as the People's Commissioner. She was unanimously elected the vice chairwoman of the Board of Commissioners on December 2nd, 2024, and her current term expires in 2026. She's got over 25 years of service as a public servant. She's most known for her strong advocacy and work in the health and wellness, mental health awareness fields, advocacy for disabled children and adults, affordable housing, education, school facilities, advocacy for disabled veterans, military families, safe water, infrastructure, and public safety. Ms. Jones has been a fixture in our community for a very long time, and it is my great pleasure to introduce. Where did she go? Where'd she go, Mr. Floyd?
I don't control the board. She's not from here.
There she is. To introduce Miss Veronica Jones. Hi, Miss Jones. Let's give it a second and get her teed up. Now, Mr. Floyd, we're not able to display camera and mic. She's having a connectivity issue. We'll give her a second to resolve that. Let me send her a text and let her know we've got a connectivity issue. Mr. Floyd, some things that happened on this last meeting, and we wanted to make sure that we gave Ms. Jones an opportunity to come in and present her own perspective. Not only that, but we always like to give our elected body, those who will accept the invitation to our platform, the opportunity to come in and have dialogue about what's going on in the community, right? From their perspective
Yes.
and on the board, how they're handling it. So, Mr. Floyd, I think one of the things that is always an interest of ours is to provide to provide space, to make space, right? And so in trying to make space and to also give people an opportunity, and we've said this a number of times, even when the situation occurred with Senator Applewhite and she kind of flipped off on me and we gave her an opportunity. Don't laugh. She did. She flipped off on me.
No, I
We
was
gave
just.
her.
I mean, no, I was just looking. I mean, of what you said. I saw uh, Facebook. I think it was Facebook. Senator Applewhite made about the Civil War music, and I thought it was
Yes.
the best Amazon product that I have ever seen delivered. You know what I said now?
Yeah.
Amazon product that I seen delivered. But good, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no. But even then we tried to give her an opportunity to come on and state her own piece because I don't really like speaking for anybody. I will report what I see and I will have a conversation about what I think or how I feel about what I see. But I don't like to position anybody's. I want people to stake their own claim. This also was very important to me, Mr. Flood, and I shared this with you because I started hearing in the community people talking about this dialogue that had transpired um, with Miss Jones and the chairman of the board, Commissioner Kirk Deviere, who will be on our show next week, who will be on
Mhm.
next week to kind of brief us on things from his perspective about how things are going with the board of commissioners and some of the decisions that are being made, so we can get some clarity because I'll be honest, I understand politics and I'm a little confused about some of the stuff that I see that's happening. Um, but we wanted to give. I was frustrated by the way that the community narrative was shaping around Miss Jones, because I don't like it when women, particularly women of color, have an opinion and then get labeled as, "Hey there, Miss Jones," then get
Hi, can
labeled
you hear me
as.
now?
I can hear you perfectly.
Thank
Let
you.
me finish this comment and we coming right to you. I don't like it,
That's
Mr.
fine.
Floyd, when women get labeled as aggressive or angry, just for kind of asserting their position. And so it was very important for the both of us to have Miss Jones come on, share with us what she has experienced on the board thus far in terms of decision making, what we should expect from this board in terms of output, and her take on what happened in that meeting where it appeared to be a little bit contentious. Now, let me say this before we even start, Floyd, because you know I love most people. Well, I try to love everybody, but I love most people. Both of these people are at the center of my heart. And so I try to remain very neutral and have a very clear disposition. I'm gonna let you lead the conversation, Floyd, and I will jump in and ask questions because I don't want my bias and my affinity for Miss Jones to paint a picture that we wouldn't otherwise paint with any other guest. So you take the lead, Miss Jones. I have teed you up. We pulled your bio from the Board of Commissioners. I want to give you a virtual high five because you killed it in the election. And I told everybody when I saw those numbers, she did not come to play. So, Mr. Floyd, our guest is in your hands. Welcome, Miss Jones. Welcome.
Thank you so
Ms.
much.
Jones, welcome to Upzone. You know, the video that we have was a conversation as it relates to you addressing the County Board of Commissioners as it relates to your disability. And there were some comments that you expressed to the board, uh, the Board of Commissioners, as it relates to your disability. We said in our community that you read the Riot Act or you had a come to Jesus conversation with the board. So could you elaborate to the community your comments and the reason why you made those comments?
Thank you so much, Mr. Floyd, and thank you as well, Tisha, for having me on my show. Let me first say that. Well, first of all, as the vice chairwoman, and there are only two women on the commission, I think it's important for people to understand that we have a responsibility. So for me, I just want to set the stage and let this be known. First of all, I respect everyone that I work with on the board, including Chairman Deviere and, of course, Commissioner Adams, Commissioner Tyson, Commissioner Patel. And so for me, we are about the business of taking care of people in the community, which means also taking care and respecting one another. And whether things are done intentionally or non-intentionally, we have to address things that we feel inappropriate. And I must say, especially in the current climate time that we're living in, and I say that to say that the highest land of politics, as we know, no doubt, is the White House. And just as there are some behaviors that are taking place in the White House, it's no secret type of behavior, that of disrespect towards people of different nationalities, that of disrespect towards women, that of disrespect to people for religions. Sometimes that camaraderie of that attitude is not going to be accepted and tolerated at the White House, and nor is it going to be tolerated or accepted in local government. And I say that to say that it's just not appropriate. And so the disrespect that I was speaking of, I think there was I guess a lot of people are saying that they didn't understand it. So we're going to use this as a teaching moment. The first statement for those that seen the tape, as you'll see, this we were talking about the Crown Center. I understand that the community, in my opinion, is very, very split on that. Everyone's very passionate. All of those that I work with, all the other commissioners, such as myself, are passionate not just about this particular issue, but all issues because we take this very serious. We understand that it is an honor and privilege, as both of you know from being elected officials, to be the voice of those in our community. And I take it very serious. And I don't know what happened to my screen. I'm sorry. Let me see.
We can still see you, Veronica. We can still see you.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
So with that being said, understanding the privilege of how I'm here and why I'm here, and yes, as an African American woman, but a woman in general, I'm very mindful not to take that for granted. And so I say that to say that when we're having a meeting about one of the biggest event decisions and votes that there is, that this community, our county, is taking, $152 million project, it is important that everybody's voice is counted that's in the room. And I need people to understand, for me, the disrespect that I found is really about voting. It's not about how the vote went, but about voting itself. And sometimes individuals, and I'm not, throwing shade or anything like that, but I need for all people to understand, and where I'm coming from, and I know half of the community understands this. Voting is not just about the privilege in the polls, it's about the privilege also in the boardroom and any other sector where you might have a vote where decisions are implemented. So what I found to be disrespectful is when Chairman Deviere, when I was trying to help Miss Council, in regards to, she could not hear some those of the audience, they didn't realize that, but we at the board is aware of the fact that she didn't have her hearing aid in. So she kept saying, I can't hear you, of which is, she's very intelligent. And I call her the legend Martiarch of the group. And so we like to, again, assist and our teammates whenever she can't hear, because again, we want to make sure that she can hear. She's very articulate, so she can hear all information as needed to make the best sound decision that she chooses to. So I was operating in that of what I always operate in. I sit right beside her, and for some that don't understand about policy or regulations, rule of order and all of this, usually the vice chair sits on the right side. My permanent seat intentionally, of which I shared with the chairman, is I like to sit beside Miss Council, and because of the fact that, like I said, I know sometimes she might, not have her hearing aid with her. We've developed a camaraderie, which all of us have. So we had decided that as long as we're taking care of business, my seat would be, but there's a point I'm going at with this. If, we got to have consistency with policy. It just can't be sometimes not. So just to set the correct stage for everyone, the vice chair, man or woman, for those that, protocol, and we want to say how a board's supposed to be, education for those that don't know that, but I know the two of you do know that, usually sits on the right side in all meetings. That was intentional, not just that meeting, but all meetings. I sit on the other side near Miss Council. Out of that respect, she's got a lot of wisdom. She's very confident. She's very intelligent. But just in case, we haven't built that rapport, if she does have to repeat something to her. So I was operating in the same capacity as I always do. I know it had been a long meeting. We're there for 4 hours. When Chairman Deviere had stated we're getting ready to take the vote, Ms. Council said, wait a minute, this is the first initial vote to decide, do we want to move forward with the MP free or reject it, meaning do we want to go another direction? So as soon as she heard vote, Ms. Council said, wait a minute, I can't hear. I was operating again in that of what I always do. She said it a second time, she tapped my leg. So I don't feel that I'm going to just ignore Ms. Council. First of all, she is one of my elders. She's a woman, of God, classy. And not only that, but let's face it, if you know your history and your heritage, I wouldn't be there if it wasn't for her. And I need people to understand that statement means that we haven't had too many women on the board. If we're going to have real conversation, let's have real conversations. So women such as herself and other ancestors, I'm going to be respectful. Number one, it's a part of who I am as a woman of God. Number two, yes, it is a part of my culture. And number three, understanding how long that it's taken for all women to get where they need to go. So that's the layout setup. So
I have a question for you, Veronica. Let me ask you a quick question. So I know that when you went out to use the restroom, I hear you saying in the video that a citizen had to come out and get you and tell them that they were calling for the vote. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that element? And then I also have a question that came in. I think she's got to go out and come back in because her system, Mr. Floyd, is stuck, so it stopped recording. I sent her a text and told her go out and come back in. But what I want to get clarification from her on is what this citizen who came out to her. Okay, she's coming back in, so I'll ask her.
That's okay.
Perfect.
Okay,
so can you explain that citizen interaction, Ms. Jones? And can you also, because one of the questions that came in was, can you explain why you were one of 2 votes that voted against canceling this project downtown. So can you
Yes.
provide some context to that? Because there's a narrative that's attempting to shape that you were just mad about the vote. But we know, Floyd, you and I, we know that typically when we go into chambers, we usually know the way the vote is going to fall before it even falls. So if you were going to be
Absolutely.
mad, you've already gotten over it by the time you come into chambers.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned that because, again, like I said, I work with professional people. I'm professional and behind the scenes, and no doubt, this is not like a big major vote like this $152 million project. We've had several meetings about this. We've had closed session about this. So the public needs to understand, of which I'm going to not insult our community. Most people understand that we've talked about this a lot, reiterated different information. So by the time that we get to this meeting on this subject of the crown or any other matter, if you've been listening to your constituents, your colleagues, everyone knows pretty much by the time you get in there where we stand on the issue. So I wasn't surprised by the vote at all. And be mindful, I'm glad you mentioned that. I had already stated that I felt there was disrespect when I wasn't able to assist her as I normally can. And to be quite frank, other body languages from other commissioners, which I thought was not appropriate, was going on. I felt like that was making it appear, in my opinion, as if Miss Council was incompetent when she was not. So I had already addressed that and said, I won't be disrespected, neither was she. I stated the need to use the bathroom. We'd been in for 4 hours. So I had felt like when I made that statement, we all worked well enough to know that my colleagues understood what that meant. I announced I'm going to the restroom. Ordinarily, again, I'm operating in that what I always do. If someone has to use the restroom, and for those that don't know, the restroom, the women's restroom in the courthouse is 2 hallways down. It's not like you're just walking outside the room and can get back in. So when I stated I was going to the restroom, I assumed we were going to do like we always do at any other meeting. A break was going to be taken to allow me the opportunity to get 2 halls down to get back, especially with all these important votes going on. So when I go to the restroom, her name is Molly. I hope she doesn't mind me mentioning that. She is a member of the Downtown Alliance. She comes out. That's why she was able to get halfway down to the hallway because, like I said, it's 2 hallways down. And she states to me, Vice Chairwoman Jones, I know you have to use the restroom, but if this is imperative to me, and they are trying to move forward.
We need you down here for this vote.
We need you down here. They're trying to move forward. Your vote will be informed. It's going to be called infirmed. And
well,
so,
let me pause you right there because I want our audience to understand this. Now, Mr. Floyd, I remember me and you hashing this out because at the House level, if you go to the bathroom, you just don't have a vote. At the county level and the city level, if you come to a meeting and you walk out to go to the bathroom and they call for a vote while you are in the bathroom, or you step out to take a call and you did not officially ask to be excused and get the board to vote to excuse you, then if they take a vote while you are out using the bathroom or taking a call, your vote is counted as affirmative, no matter what the situation. So in this instance, when Veronica stepped out to go, when Vice Chairwoman Jones stepped out to go to the restroom, that means that if they would have taken a vote, her vote would have automatically, by their policy, would have automatically counted as affirmative. So that's what she's talking about when she says that she wanted her vote to be heard in the way that she wanted it to be heard. Mr. Floyd,
I understand what both of you. As the commissioner mentioned, that the vice chair sits on the right hand side. That's his basic protocol. But at the same time, that the vice chair indicated that the restroom part, then based on procedure, and she sat next to the chair, she could have asked for a recess.
You're correct.
For 5 to 10 minute recess, so in that the members, or in their procedures, is that after 2 hours meeting, that the chair called for a recess.
But Mr. Floyd, I think what I hear Ms. Jones saying is there's this unwritten protocol that they just give each other the courtesy of go on to the bathroom. So
I understand it. I'm in agreement
And I'm
with you.
sorry, yeah.
But
Right.
based
And
on,
that's
but
why,
once you come into a meeting, and a quorum is set,
You got to
that
follow the
quorum is
process.
set. So irregardless, you got to follow, because you leave does not halt or delay the meeting
Miss
itself.
Jones, you learned your
That's
lesson.
why.
yes, well, actually, and let me say this. Let me say this, and that is why, which we've talked about this. I understand as a leader, and even not as a leader, but that's why you have to have consistencies of policy,
That's
because we
right.
can't. And I want to be very clear on that. Just like, if we're gonna do Robert's rules and consistency of policy, that's why I made that point. I'm supposed to be sitting on the right side of the chairman, but we made except, it was decided when we had a new chairman and myself as vice chair. That I would sit on the left side. Like, in other words, I don't, not just for that meeting. I always sit, again, that's what I mean by consistency of the policy. If we're going to go by policy, let's just go by policy all the way down the rule. That means that I'm not even correctly sitting in the seat I'm supposed to, but because we do want to take care of people and we, respect that. And just as you stated, Tisha, you can, I guess, decide what's best for your group, but you got to stay consistent. If we decide I'm going to be on the left side, which we did. I'm going to stay there in case I can accommodate. And Ms. Council is very intelligent, but if it's easier for her to hear me if she doesn't have a hearing aid, we just got to be consistent with the policy. If it's going to be, if I stand up and acknowledge and say I have to use the bathroom, and not just me, not just for the Crown meeting, you can pull the tape. Any other meetings when we have Commissioner Adams, we have Commissioner Tyson, people want to use the restroom, they acknowledge they're going to the restroom. The chairman usually states, we're going to have a break. They don't say, I request to go to the bathroom. We can just pull the tapes like everyone's chopping up this tape as a courtesy, unwritten, as you stated, courtesy, because we know that all these votes are important. Ordinarily, what's been happening, and to be honest with you, not just with this chairman, even when Commissioner Adams was a chairman, when someone asked to use the restroom, it would just be a common courtesy where if you say you have to use the restroom, I'm not talking about you just walk out and don't acknowledge it, but you stand up like I did, which is how the citizen knew. I stood up and said, I am going to the restroom. We've been here for 4 hours. And so I was operating in that of, like I said, what we always do at meetings, when you don't just walk out and not acknowledge, you let people know we're going to have a vote, that you're going to the restroom, a break is already taken. So
Veronica, I
this
want to
meeting
ask you two questions.
was different from what we've been doing.
So the first question I want to ask you is, how did you come to fall in the group of two, you and Commissioner Adams, that voted to not cancel this event center downtown?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. As it's been continuously stated, a former board had made this decision. And I don't feel, to be honest, and I've been very vocal about that once a board that's very competent puts things, respectfully, I say that, has put things in place, taxpayers' money's been spent, $42 million has been spent, ribbon cutting has been done. I didn't feel like we should have been revisiting that. Is it okay when new members come in and evaluate and reassess information? Of course, just as when I came on myself. But I have a concern about that too. Speaking of policy, is this going to be the new standard that we take? We have elections coming up in the near future, 2026, in December. So I'm going to use this as an example. It has not, it's projected, it has not been put into place yet. But say if we decide, we all agree and we move forward with the Aquatic Center, that's something coming forth in the new future, lock everything in, this board. Does that mean that when we have new members coming in the next election, that if they're not in agreement, do we get to review that and flip that as well? So I'm gonna be honest, I'm concerned with a lot of policies that I feel need to be looked at or procedures to be put in place. So again, people coming in, and you understand where things, whether that's Chairman Deviere, Patel, Tyson, I say that with no disrespect, they're all very sharp young men, passionate about what they do. But you understand where I'm going with that as well. We have to be concerned seriously about that. Is this going to be the new rule of local government, that based on when you come in for an election, things are in motion, especially the greater concern, I'm going to be honest, taxpayers' monies. And we had already had consultants bringing informations, surveys. And I mean, I'm going to be, quite honest with you. This is about, like I said, the people's seats. We don't always get to have the choice of how we feel things should be done. But the bottom line is a choice decision. A board made a decision what they felt was best made for the people's one board, and then it got overturned with new board members. So
Okay, so
no,
my
I don't
let
feel
me ask
like
you my
that is.
second question. I appreciate that. I think
Mhm.
that's a fair and in-depth answer. My second question is there's been a lot of conversation because you were insistent in your conversation that you made sure that you clarified that you have a disability and that you are a black woman in this seat. Some people have taken that and have run with those comments and made it as if you were trying to insinuate that Commissioner Deviere was operating from a racist construct. I need for you to clarify that because, see, I know, like I said at the top of this show, both you and Kirk, and I've watched the both of you work in this community for as long as I've been observing the both of you very well together. I also know that you were this deciding vote that made him chairman of this board. So, can you speak to the relationship of you and Mr. Deviere and speak to the frustration that you felt and clarify what some of this negative chatter is in the community?
Okay, yes, absolutely. When I came back, because yes, a citizen did run down the hallway, and she states to me, because you're right, everyone's making this about race or ADA. I'm not making it about that. They're making that about that, and I have to let people have their opinions. When I stated that I'm an African American woman, two of only two of one that's been at large, yes, that was intentional. My point was people need to understand that I'm not afraid to say I'm African American. If other people want to feel uncomfortable and take that as a negative, then I'm not going to apologize for that. The point I was trying to say with that is just like I stated, we don't have a lot of women in leadership. And so I understand the responsibility of that. I understand how long it took for women's rights. I understand how long it took for African Americans' rights. So I'm not going to shy away from that. In reference to ADA, I made that statement too, that no, my vote will be when I came back, because since they want to make it about race, when a white woman came out, so clearly it's just about values, not race, and says to me, a board member, there's a downtown board member says to me, you need to get back, Ms. Jones. We don't have that many women leaders here. They're trying to affirm your vote. I don't feel that this is right. So obviously she must have the same values I do. Again, it's not about just the vote being important at the polls. It's in boardrooms as well. That's number one. So yes, when I said about ADA was because I do have a problem with my leg, but my brain works just quite well. Just like Miss Council might have, an issue with her ears, but we're very competent, very intelligent. And I think it's important for me not to be afraid to say that. I'm an advocate for the disability community. I'll put it out there. For me, my situation is a leg issue. And sometimes we want to stigmatize against people that might have to use a cane or a walker, or even just as I stated, a hearing aid. The brain works is very competent. We have to have people not afraid to speak about the uncomfortable conversations. So this was not against, like I said, Kirk Deviere, but it is what it is. We have over a 20-year personal relationship as friends and serving in this community. It wasn't anything, like I stated, against any of those men that I work with, but we have to state the fact. If I am going to the restroom, this has been a polite business protocol for everyone else in there, the men and the women. I am just operating in what I always do. So then, of course, I'm going to find it to be disrespectful. You mean to tell me, as the vice chairwoman, and not even if I wasn't the vice chairman, $152 million decision is going to happen, and I'm supposed to be okay with my vote not being counted, or someone pushing through for that? No, that's not acceptable. I can't agree with that. I'm going to speak out about it. I'm glad you all let me come on the show to get the whole full picture. And like I stated, the women's bathroom is 2 hallways away. Clearly, myself and another woman that felt the need were not personal friends. I know of whom she is. She doesn't know me other than that I'm a commissioner. I know that, yes, she's on the Downtown Alliance. Of course, I know the different board members. So she doesn't have any
Personal investment.
Personal investment to run halfway down a hallway. I'm not exaggerating. And I appreciate that, because the vote has to be protected, like I said, at the polls and in the boardroom. And in reference to ADA, here's the thing I think that people feel uncomfortable with. We can't have anti-Sism when it comes to talking against Jewish people, or every other race is allowed to say. My Latino friends say all the time, They're a proud Latino. And nobody is saying they're making race division. I've heard that out there too. I have other friends that are Jewish. They say they're proud Jewish. So the minute that a black woman says, I'm African American and and start stating what I am because I am, it makes people feel uncomfortable. That wasn't a hit against anyone. It was to say, I know who I am. I love who I am. I know what it means to be in this seat. And this woman right here, Miss Council beside me, I understand that when she was the first and only woman on the council, she understands what it takes to get in that seat. And I understand what it takes for me to be in this seat. So with that being said, I love Chairman Devier and I love everyone I work with, but no, I just can't, it's not acceptable. I just cannot, when things are happening that aren't acceptable, we have a responsibility. I'll take the hit. I'm in good company. They said Michelle Obama was angry. They said Shirley Chisholm was angry. They say that, Congresswoman, they said that, you know what? And I'm gonna be honest. Now they
and
said
I don't
they
get
said
angry that much.
So I understand, it's gonna happen. They say that, that
Mr. Floyd, you can have the final. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just listening to y'all. I'm just listening.
If you're a black woman that's assertive, then you're the angry black woman. Like I said, I'm in good company, and to be honest, and I have nothing against work well with Mayor Mitch Colvin. I found myself even before I was on the, and I don't, I'm just gonna, you all know I'm gonna be transparent just like you all are. This is probably happening to Vice Chairwoman Commissioner Veronica Jones because it happened to Tisha Waddell. You didn't say it, I did, and it happened to Shaquilla Ingram. And people feel like we are, being disrespectful to the chair.
We're not allowed to speak up when we get violated. Go ahead, Floyd, because I see you chopping at the bit.
I'm
Go
leave
ahead,
it at that because when we speak up, and honestly, I feel like because it happened to you too, and people try to make it be like they're just being angry black women and let's don't talk about it. That's why years later, the same thing, I'm just gonna be honest, I feel can happen to me. I sure do.
Go
I
ahead.
mean, I know
Go
people
ahead,
aren't gonna
Floyd.
like that, but it is what it is.
Question that you could answer very simple. Does the county commission has policies or a manual or how they carry out their duties and responsibilities? Yes or no?
We do have, I'm glad you mentioned that. We have a new active policy. And because of just like you stated, and this is probably going to make things even better in that area, we're always looking for improvement. Actually, we do have a policy and procedure book, and we decided to establish because we felt like, number one, things need to be revisited and updated, or things again, because of consistency either weren't really being applied all the time or not applied at all. So the great news is, yes, under Kirk Devier's leadership and mine, we decided to establish subcommittees back that had, were inactive. And so we do have a policy committee in place now that is, as you speak, we're make that is what the policy committee does. Let's put some policies in place or look at the old ones and that type of thing again. Now, this only recently, as far as activate, that's what I mean by reactivate. You can have things that hasn't been looked at or hasn't been active. Just like I'm gonna use example, the city and county
does not the county attorney advise the council of the commission of its policies, whether or not they're following their policies as it relates to carrying out their duties and responsibilities? Does the county attorney advise because it is that person's responsibility, as it relates to the manual of operation?
Well, you know what? Yes, and let me say this: we have a great law team. Rick Moorfield does a great job. We are looking at this. We're not perfect. This is passionate 4-hour meeting. We're looking at this. I'm gonna be honest, as a learning lesson in two things: making sure we do stay consistent. So that's what's came out of this. I can't say it enough. I'm in strong support. This division that people think I want to just squash that is just not true. Thank you all for being a show that's about accuracy, and thank you for putting that into perspective. I'm not afraid to say what needs to be said. I'm not afraid of the hard decisions, as you just stated. When the new board came apart, I got a lot of criticism for that. I was a deciding vote. 3 council members felt we don't want to bring people in. We respect their coming in, but Kirk Devier, I'm just gonna put it out there. 3, they felt like He shouldn't be in leadership because he's never been a commissioner. I don't agree with that. I was the
Well,
deciding vote.
let me
I
say,
feel like
let me say is that I know from past community experience that you and the chair have had a relationship because the person that you have worked very close with was Councilperson Wright and Senator Kurt Sophia, now the County Board of Commission chairperson. We all understand that. But one thing that is understand in politics, you cannot hold future board members' action for past
You
decisions.
can't commit a future board to a past board's
You can't do it.
decision.
You
Yeah.
can't do it. I mean, each board
This
comes
has taught
in,
us that.
and what you do, and what you do, you hold your when you vote, you hold your you pray that these individuals will work responsibly. That's what you pray for. Ask me, I know I I experienced it with 12 years serving in the General Assembly.
and I respect that. And you're right, because that's why I said when you come on, you want to see what's going on in place with this. And I feel like that we all in politics, we understand that, but I feel like that is what confused some of our community. And you're right, there's a first for everything. So a lot of the citizens were confused because they said they don't understand. And I feel the big key is wasn't so much about it wasn't that they had an issue or problem with new board members coming in. I'll be honest, because they too, I'm sure, our community is very intelligent. They too would want to come in and find out information. The bigger key, I feel like that's an issue for the community is that this is their taxpayers' money. So they
Period.
feel like, period. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think anyone is questioning,
Well,
and thank you for mentioning
I
that.
don't
And
disagree. I don't disagree with you.
because
Senator,
and
you know,
they feel like
at
$42
that
million.
time, Senator Bill
Right, you
bought
understand what I'm saying.
$432 million. Elmer Floyd bought $132 million. That was your money that was given to Raleigh. In return, these individuals bought the money back. And our community still was not accepted for the amount of money that was brought back to the community. But having said that, is there any closing comments that you would like to make to clarify?
Yes,
Our
yes, I
conversation?
would. Thank you so much. Yes, number one, I don't want to be reiterate enough, but let me let everyone know, everyone in those seats are you all's, from Chairman Kirk Deviere to myself as the vice chair. We're all leaders up there, and we're trying to have a voice in consideration for a very diverse community, which is great Cumberland County and Fayetteville. And so, with that being said, tough decisions are going to be made. I want everyone to understand that we are all professional enough that we know before we even go in there. Most of the time, if you're listening to your teammates, then you're pretty much
You know where
where they
fall.
stand. I don't work with a group of people that aren't opinionated, just like I am. That's number one. Number two, I need people to understand that in the event, I don't want people to be uncomfortable, but you guys put me in these seats. When I say you all, I mean the community, to be my true
83% of the vote.
and to be my true authentic self. But I do want people to know I'm from a diverse background. When I say African American woman, it's by no intent. I love all people. It's not against any other race. That's just my way of saying, as a woman, and even as an African American woman, I understand this responsibility. I understand my culture. I understand my history. And with that being said, I have to advocate for all people, but I also have to advocate for that of, yes, women's rights, individuals with ADA. I have a situation, thank goodness, yes, I just have a smaller situation where I need access to use a cane to walk. And just like, there's other people, though, that have wheelchairs and more serious things. So I feel like when we are given the responsibility to be in these seats, we can't be afraid to speak for the voices of many people's voices aren't heard. Miss
Absolutely.
Council is
Veronica, I gotta
phenomenal.
pause you for just a second. Let me pause you because I just looked at our time and we are way over time. but Vice Chair, I do want to thank you first of all for coming on. I want to thank you for taking the time to explain something that many people probably still won't understand. And I also want to thank you for positioning this information about what was going on in this meeting in a way where those who do seek to understand now have your perspective. I know that you said about $42 million has been spent on this project already. I think one of the things that we really need to hear coming out of our Board of Commissioners, so hopefully you will take this back, is that we want to understand not only how much to the dollar has been spent on this project thus far, on soft costs and acquisitions and the whole 9 yards, but we also want to understand what's still to be spent out, because we recognize that contracts have to be terminated and there are usually typically costs associated with that. Now, what I'm going to do is extend the right hand of fellowship and ask Mr. Floyd if sometime in the future, as all of this continues to pan out, we can have you come back. But I want to thank you for coming today. And Ms. Jones, I just want to tell you I very much appreciate you. You've got our comment section lighten up. I don't advise you go and try to respond to all of that, because sometimes people just say what people say, but we appreciate you. We thank you. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to close, and then we got to roll.
Okay. And I wanted to say that we are still working together. I still stand by Kirk Chairman Debbie Ayer and the rest of the board. We're working together for your greater good. That's number one. And number two, please know that I will always be an advocate across the board, not just for women, not just ADA, my overall community. That's number two. Number three goes back to what Elmer Floyd said. We use everything as a learning lesson. Teamwork makes the dream work. We call ourselves the dream team, and I still consider that from the top, from Kirk Debbie Ayer to myself and the rest of the team. And so policy does matter. We're taking this as a learning tool to make sure that we do have consistent policy and not just courtesy policy, because I want to thank Elmer Floyd representative for understanding the importance of that. And that's what we're making. We're taking this moment to do that. And also we're taking this moment, as you all did formerly when things were happening at the city, to see about training for cultural diversity and that of sensitivity classes. All of this is a part of just making the team better. But make no doubt, teamwork makes the dream work. I stand behind Chairman Debbie Ayer, just like when I had nominated him. He stands behind me. We are still united with the rest of our team to get the business for the county done.
Awesome sauce. Thank you, Ms. Jones, and we'll catch you next time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. I look forward to coming back. Appreciate
Sounds
you guys.
good. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So now, Mr. Floyd, there's a lot in that to unpack. A lot of the
Yes.
comments that we're getting from the audience, some of them are a little bit, I think, trivial, but some of them are very, very big and very, they're very, very worthy conversations that need to be had. I think specifically around cost. That's important. We need to understand, and I want to thank Pamela Carter for her questions. Tell us to the number what we're looking at in terms of cost. Commissioner Debbie Ayer will be on our podcast next week. We have him scheduled, and we have given him. We asked Ms. Jones. So to your question, Ronnie, I want to speak directly to that. We asked Ms. Jones to come on specifically to speak about this exchange, and I explained why at the top of the show. Because as someone who has sat in this seat, Mr. Floyd, and who has been on the receiving end of criticism for standing up for my citizens, the ones that elected me to do business on their behalf, and for standing up for myself, I know what it means to be in this position that she finds herself in. And I think that the degradation, particularly from people that look like us, is absolutely appalling. I think that sometimes we need to get a full and complete picture before we have a reason or a response to present outwardly facing. Go ahead.
That's why there.
Yes, sir.
Our community had to be told from someone outside of 301 how to respond to certain matters. Outside of 301, if they say it, then it becomes the gospel, and then that's what we follow. If you understand.
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. So, now, Mr. Floyd, we've got a couple of other. Go ahead, sir, because I want you to finish your statement.
No, that's the problem that we have in this community. We are in charge of the school board. We're in charge of the city council. All of these governing boards, and we are in key positions throughout the county. But I'll leave it at that, and you see how, as an example, you can see the progress on Murchison Road. But the thing that I would like to say, and I appreciate this, is that Commissioner Evans was put in for the order of the longleaf pine.
Yes, he was.
and he was denied that order. He received a call saying that he did not have 30 years, I must speak now, state experience
Mm-hmm.
to receive the award. Now he,
Well, and you
now,
had me pull that information up, and that is not exactly how that award works. And
it's not.
we know that because we've seen other people be awarded the Order of the Longleaf Pine Award. So this is the highest award that's for state service granted by the office of the government. I mean, of the governor. Nominations can be made for retiring individuals who have 30 or more years of service in the state of North Carolina, meaning in the state of North Carolina. Um, non-state employees must submit 3 letters of recommendation and a statement of service from Human Resources on letterhead if available. All nomination of state employees must be submitted by a Human Resources officer and include a statement of their service. So it even delineates, Mr. Floyd, between how non-state employees and how state employees submissions must be presented. So it is an inaccuracy that whoever has said that. And if Mr. Evans has worked in this community for over 30 years in terms of output for
Well,
community service.
let me say this. Let me say this to you. He had a letter from one of the transitional team for Governor Stein, which was the district attorney. He had the highest ranking person in the North Carolina House letter of recommendation. He had one from a professor at Fairfield State, and he had one from a local attorney. So what I'm saying, as a grassroots person, they talk about grassroots people being involved in the party, but to say that he did not have 30 years of service, then I started thinking.
You know
I
who
said,
has the
okay,
Longleaf Pine Award? I want somebody to tell me what 30 years he did as a state employee. Larry Wright. I was at his presentation. So I
okay, you
make it
see,
make
so
sense.
that's one. So my thing was is that wait a minute here and there. And then I started thinking that that they do what the city attorney should do, and I said it earlier with Muhammad, do some background investigation of that person, and come to find out there was a person that he ran against, number one, and then there was another person that
Yeah,
would have fundraisers.
because right here, the first thing I said when you started talking about this was somebody just don't like him and does not want him to get this award because it's all political.
Yes, and he ran against someone who had fundraisers at their home, at his home, for the government.
Which would
And
be
so,
Henry Mitchell Colvin.
and the other person that's an attorney. And
Or
so,
Jonathan Charleston.
given, so given, so given that, I said to myself, that's why
Did
he
Mr.
didn't.
Charleston
And
have
bear in mind that,
fundraisers at his home, or did he just attend the fundraisers and support the ones at Mitch's home? I'm not aware. I don't know about that. I wasn't
well,
invited to them.
I'm just saying they had fundraisers. I'm not saying
Okay.
which house it was,
They've
but they
raised
had
money.
fundraisers to
They've
come
raised
with that.
money.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so, quite natural, those persons may be contacted, just like the city attorney, the city attorney should have did with Muhammad. So, by getting this background information that he ran against this particular person, then the person, now bear in mind now, the governor need the minority leader to help carry out his agenda in the
Hmm.
General Assembly. To honor a letter from the minority leader of the House caucus, it goes to show you how they look at us. When you
Listen,
have the district attorney to send a letter on your behalf and it's not looked at favorably. Come on, Chief. That's why our party is constantly losing its grip because of the way that they are treating its
the members.
voters.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Floyd, hopefully there will be some resolution in that, but I know we are coming up on our time to wrap, but I want us to share this item of information because we did say we were going to put it out there and then sort of follow up with it with a broader conversation at a later date. You ready to go ahead and talk about this?
Well, there's some communication as it relates to the North Carolina Bar Association, and I'll leave it at that as it relates
No, I'm
to.
not leaving. I'm not leaving anything at anything. Why do we? We don't have to leave it at that. We can show the people. So, it would appear that there has been a disciplinary hearing of the North Carolina State Bar, or is an ongoing disciplinary hearing of the North Carolina State Bar. The North Carolina State Bar is the plaintiff versus R. Jonathan Charleston, who is who was an attorney. He's the defendant. This particular, without going into a lot of detail, this has to do with. I want to make sure I at least get this out of my mouth correctly. So it's talking about East Point. It references East Point, a local management entity, managed care organization, and a local management entity, managed care organization, LME MCO. Now, Mr. Floyd, if you recall, East Point was the subject of a newspaper article, maybe what, about 6 months ago or so? And in
that was the time that they was doing some consolidation.
Right. And so this this allegation, or this, I don't know, what would you call this? This hearing is being held in order to substantiate or refute whether or not there was something ethically that was done, that something was done that ethically violated the standard of the North Carolina State Bar. I think that's the best way to describe it. This has to do with a governmental agency and Mr. Charleston's work on behalf of that agency, and some conversations that were taking place with a superior court judge, I want to say, in regards to some work being done for that agency. If you want the details, you can look this up. It's a public record. The document is on the North Carolina State Bar site. You can find it. I'll see if we can link it somewhere. I don't know. But the reason that this is important, so Mr. Floyd, again, there is an article. So I want to pull that article really quickly. That was about an audit that was performed. So these two things, while they may not be directly the same, they have a correlation. And Mr. Floyd, the correlation would appear to be that this audit had to do also with East Point and our Jonathan Charleston in regards to some funding that was dispersed, or a payment that was dispersed to this attorney kind of at the 11th hour, as this so the audit highlights that an agreement that East Point CEO reached with the Charleston Group, the organization's external counsel, that the audit says resulted in the law firm receiving $3 million in December 2023 for charges dating back to 2021. So apparently this money was not approved by the full board. And so there has been some. Go ahead.
I think the chairman at that time asked the treasurer to draft that amount.
To draft that payment. So this audit brought this payment up. This potential violation of some ethical construct of the North Carolina State Bar has resulted in this hearing, and there's no outcome yet. So we're sort of watching this. But the reason that I think that this is interesting, and the reason that I wanted us to bring this up, because we're not a legal podcast. As you can see, I don't even know how to have all the dialogue about the legal construct of it. So I ask that you all will forgive me in advance, and that even if I've misrepresented something or misstated something, you will go and look at the information and not take my word as the gospel. But the reason this is important to me, Mr. Floyd, is because this attorney, as we've mentioned multiple times over, does work with our municipality. This attorney works with PwC as their bond counsel, works with the city of Fayetteville as their bond counsel, represents many individuals in the community. And if you recall, some of the allegations that I leveraged were that things weren't always above board, where this attorney was concerned with communications regarding the members of the board, and that this to me substantiates a pattern of that. And if this is found to be true, because currently it's still going through the process, but if this is found to be verified information, Mr. Floyd, I wonder how that will affect these relationships at our municipalities and our utility.
Well, the only thing I can say, Chief, if I'm seeking services, and I may differ with you on this, if I'm seeking services, I'm going to get the person that I know that has a relationship. And you can say what you want to say, and I respect that. But I want to have a relationship with that person who I think can provide the assistance that I need. And I'm sorry to disagree with you.
By any means necessary, because I'm the client. I don't care what you do. Just get it done. Is that what you're saying?
No,
That's your law license.
I'm just saying, if I want to rezone in a piece of property, I'm not going to hire John Doe. Okay.
But Mr. Floyd, there are processes in place to protect the integrity of the law. And what it seems is that this hearing is to substantiate or disprove whether or not those processes have been followed.
To pay somebody that amount of money for 3 years, for 2+ years, or whatever years of service, that organization could have hired a legal team or
their own
legal
dedicated legal team. But let's be very clear, because I don't want anybody to think. That's why I'm saying these things are not there. It's not the same action, but they're connected because it's the same organization and the same attorney. But this action is something separate and apart. I would advise people to go and read it. If you have an interest in this, go and read it. But my question still stands: is this establishing a pattern of behavior? If this is substantiated, does this establish a pattern of behavior for how this attorney may actually, in fact, be able to successfully get all of these
outcomes? The attorney, when you look at it, it's just like zoning, as an example. You hire the person that
for their relationship.
And I'll leave it at that. I know we're over our time.
We gotta close.
I'm bringing somebody that's going to help me. I'm not bringing somebody on that's going to hinder me. So
yeah,
so that's maybe the city or PwC or other organization doesn't see that, but the appearance may be there that going forward that they may look at the relationships.
Yeah. Well, listen, we got still more comments coming in. I plan on going in and taking a look at those and trying to give a response when I can. I do want to say that we appreciate, Mr. Floyd, do we appreciate people watching our podcast?
We appreciate it.
Our little humble podcast.
And it's just there for you, just like what we talked about. It's up for you to look at it, read the information, see if it's meaningful there. And that's all we try to do, is to keep you informed of what is taking place at the city, county, and state level. And thank you so much, Madam Waddell.
No, Mr. Floyd, this your show. I'm just here. I just show up. This your show.
Thank you so much.
I do appreciate you guys watching. Floyd, what you want to leave our people with?
If that dog bark and bear bone, believe me, he gonna carry one.
Yeah, and I just want to tell you guys I love you. And I know I'm quirky, I'm weird, I'm all of those things. But I do love you guys, and we do this because we love you. We want you to think about it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Go and find the stuff we talk about, look for it, and figure it out for yourself, and then come on in here and let's all talk about it. And we ask that you would like, share, subscribe, follow, tell a friend to tell a friend. And Mr. Floyd, we'll catch everybody on the next episode, where we will have Chairman of the County Commissioners, Kirk Deviere. That's what you were going to say?
Yeah.
Great mind. All right, sir. Talk to you later.